Before I can start a conversation about God or my concepts of God, I first have to think a little bit about language, words, and definitions. In a time where it's easy to say things like, let's just agree to disagree, or you do you, or, well, in my opinion, it's too easy to use words like love, God, creator, or even Christian while having no idea what the person we are communicating with is hearing. This ambiguous nature of language isn't new, but it does make true conversation and active listening crucial in order to have, or at least come close to having understanding. Because I was raised in a generally non religious home in a small Midwest town, most of my images of God from my childhood came from TV shows and movies. I still regularly think of George Burns when somebody says God. No surprise, God was always male, always white, and always old. And of course, God lived on a cloud. Into my teens, although God was still male, God took on more of this judge, Judy, jury, and executioner way of being. Um, God's job was simply there to keep track of my sins, which were numerous. Thankfully, I've never been a Calvinist or experienced God as a puppet master pulling the strings on creation. Um, I would hope if that was how God was doing things, that he or it or God, say words again, would somehow do a better job at pulling my strings. Like many 20 somethings, although I had found Christianity and organized religion and what I thought was God, that white guy on the cloud, like many 20 somethings, there was definitely a time when my concept of God was reversed. We were not the creation of a creator. No, God was simply created by humans as a control mechanism to keep people in line. That should probably have been said in like a Cheech and Chong kind of stoner voice, followed with man. But that was how me and many of my friends understood God. Regardless of my early God concepts, it was very obvious that God was disappointed in me and probably just generally disappointed in creation in general. It wasn't until my return to Christianity in my late 30s that I began to understand the incongruity of believing in a God that created humanity and a God that was always disappointed in humanity. One of these concepts, either creator creation or controlling disappointed father, had to go. When I returned to Christianity, I was fortunate to experience God in more of the mainline Protestant and Roman Catholic traditions. Definitely not in the literal or fundamentalist viewpoints. Although I didn't know, or probably still don't know much about theology, doctrine, dogma, I found a space in these versions of Christianity where my concepts of God could evolve into something much more universal and mysterious. So instead of God as an old, angry white man on a cloud, which, by the way, is a joke we regularly use in my house, I currently experience God more as creator, teacher, healer, benevolently patient, and persistent. So it appears to me that God, who created all of this, is just patiently waiting for us to learn and to be healed and to experience. And because of free will, we can take as much time as we want, or not, to experience this healing. I still use God the Father language a lot. And that's probably because I have a pretty decent father, son, parent type of concept overall in humanity. But I also understand where that father language can be really problematic for some people. Currently, I experience God more as this loving mystery and energy that isn't in opposition to science, but is fully capable of using science. I've often used words of physics and energy to talk about God. So I guess right now my big questions that I wrestle with God is, well, what is God's involvement with and God's dream for humanity? Not so much of a why are we here, but what does God hope for us? I have some theories based on the work of Thomas Merton, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and Richard Rohr, and they all have to do with returning to a state of oneness, of unity. But truthfully, time will tell how off base those theories are. Hopefully, they're not as off base as my original childlike and teenage theories were. Thanks.